Hey everybody, and welcome back to Little Reads. Today I did just want to do a haul, which will be actually my first haul, because I do feel it is kind of a rite of passage as a booktuber, but I also did just want to have a chat about the books I buy and how and why I buy them. This is definitely inspired by a video I recently watched by Read with Cindy, who is one of my absolute favourite booktubers, who did a video, I think, a few months ago, about booktube consumerism. And seeing as I am getting into this whole booktube business, I did just want to comment on where I stand in that whole thing. I'm not going to just make you sit and watch me talk about nothing for a while. So, first book. Recursion by Blake Crouch. This book won the 2019 Goodreads Book Prize for Science Fiction. It's one I really do think I'm going to enjoy. It's on my massive TBR. I really do have two TBRs, which is the I'm going to read eventually, which is just everything on my shelf. But then there's also the, it's on the queue. This one isn't quite there yet, but it will be coming up. I'll read it by the end of the year, ideally. This is really the first type of book I buy, which is just a book that really does look like it's going to be something for me. It's sci-fi, it's got good reviews. I think I'm going to enjoy it. I bought this book from Berkelouw Cronulla, and it is one of a big Cronulla haul from two independent shops there. I am really trying to buy from independent Australian-owned businesses, which I believe Berkelouw is, but I know for a fact the other bookshop I'm going to talk about is. Just because I don't want to give all my money to Amazon. Bezos has enough. I'm just trying to buy Aussie, buy independent, and just especially because, independent bookstores have taken a massive hit with everything that's going on right now. So this was our moment after our first wave dipped and our lockdowns eased. We wanted to get out there and one, catch up on our reading, but also just support some local businesses, some independent businesses. And so that's how I buy books, I'd say. From as much as I can, I definitely do some online orders from Book Depository and Amazon at times, but I try to keep it to a minimum. I like buying independent. I feel like people should buy independent. And I'll be dropping, anytime I mention where I bought a book, I will be including it in the description. I really don't know where people are going to be watching from, but if you're watching in Australia, in Sydney, in the area where you could take a trip to Cronulla, go to these bookstores. I love them. Berkelouw is a bookstore I really like in Cronulla, but it's probably not my favourite, which I'll describe that in a second. So yeah, my first type of book is just one that I think I'll enjoy, and that's this one. But I'm actually quite picky with the books I buy. I really very rarely take a chance on a book. If I'm not certain, I'm either going to love it or that I will at least take something important from it. I will be glad that I've read it. I really don't buy it. So an example of the second type of book are these Hemingways. So I've got The Sun Also Rises and For Whom the Bell Tolls. Whilst I've read Hemingway before, I've read Old Man and the Sea and loved it. So it's not a complete shot in the dark. I'm not just buying this because it's a classic. I also think, I bought this specific classic, this specific author, because I think I am also going to enjoy it. But it's the kind of book where I personally will feel, even if I don't love it, I will be glad that I read it. I like reading classics and being able to be in on discussions about classics. So I will not be bummed out if I don't love these. I will still be very happy that they're on my shelf. Because that's really the thing with my shelf at the moment. If I look at every book on there, I'm glad that it's there, and I'll definitely be glad that these are there. And this is kind of why you will see me recommend pretty much every book I read. Like on my last video of my recent reads, I loved every single book, and it's because it really takes a lot for me to buy a book. I will not jump in and buy it unless I'm really confident I will enjoy the experience of reading it. These next books, I guess, kind of thread the needle between those two categories and kind of suit both but also neither, and it's a type of purchase I very, very rarely make, and it's of these books, the Inheritance series by Christopher Paolini. These books were one of my favorite series as a kid, and I absolutely loved reading them, but I moved around a lot, and so I didn't really I often had to throw away books between moves. And so I did not have a full series of these books. I had a copy of Eldest and a copy of Brisinga, neither of which matched, which isn't really a big deal. I would have loved to be able to find other books to match those ones, and rather than buy a whole new lot. But it's surprisingly hard. Like, so many bookstores have one or two of these. And often they have one of them which is slightly different, like the font on the sides can be slightly different fonts, so whilst they look quite similar, they're not quite the same editions, and I couldn't stand that personally, so I saw these. This is the second bookstore I was talking about. This is Best Little Bookshop in Town, again in Cronulla, independent owned, perhaps my favourite bookstore in the city. I love going to them. I love the owners. I love the books that they really do cater for my taste. They've got a lot of classics, a lot of sci-fi, a lot of philosophy books. And I've actually one of the books I'm very excited to talk about. I'll bring up which I got from there. But yeah, so this is a book which I definitely enjoy having on my shelf. I have definitely enjoyed reading and do believe I will read again. And I definitely get something from them, because when I say get something from them, it doesn't just have to be a classic. It's why I love sci-fi books. Because often they do make some commentary about the world around us. They do make a point. I love books that make a point, that get me thinking about things. So even if they don't, even if they aren't the best book, if they at least make me stop for a second and just question something in the world around me, I feel that is time well spent. So these books I will definitely enjoy reading and feel I get something from them, even if it's just childhood nostalgia. I can't wait to reread these again. I did just want to actually bring back this book for a second, Inheritance. This is the last book in the Inheritance cycle of the, some people might know it more as the Aragon series by Christopher Paolini. I never had this book physical, ever. I read this purely ebook. And I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about reading physical versus digital. When ebooks and e-readers really took off as a thing, I really dove in. I loved them. I thought it was so silly for someone to buy a paperback or a hardback when you could get the exact same thing, the exact same words on a page for a fraction of the price, if any price if it was public domain, and get the same experience. You could read them without having to buy something physical that would take up space, without having to pay extra money. I just saw absolutely no reason why someone would ever go physical over digital. But I said that, and then didn't really read much. I don't know if it was just a few bad books that I really didn't enjoy, but I really dropped off with reading. I had all of these ebooks, but I just couldn't get into them. I definitely had less of an attention span for reading when I was younger, so hopefully I've overcome that, and now I can get more back into ebooks, because I don't want to spend a ton of money on books forever. I would love having a bookshelf of the books I really love, of my favorites, which I can recommend to people and let people borrow and things like that. More of my own personal library than a collection. But I'm not going to sacrifice my own enjoyment of reading, or you know, whether or not I read based off of that. So I'm gonna have to give. I've recently inherited a Kindle from my grandmother, so I'm going to try to throw myself a bit more back into digital reading and start taking a risk on books again. I think it's actually a bit of a bad thing how restricted I've been, only reading books that I am confident I will enjoy. But then I've started reading once or twice, mostly, you know, from having access to V's book collection. She's recommended books to me that I never would have read otherwise, never would have taken the risk on, and I loved them. So I've really been cutting myself off from taking chances on books which really would have broadened my thinking and understanding, and my love of reading. These three, which are so cute, I got from Berkelouw Books again. These are the little black penguin books, where you can get them generally very cheap. I think these were like, $3. So I saw them and I really wanted them, especially because there are a few authors I haven't read yet but really want to. All of them, in fact. The first one, Why I Am So Clever by Nietzsche. There's so much Nietzsche I want to read. I really want to get his Beyond Good and Evil. I can't wait to get that. So I think I'm really going to enjoy this little mini one. Tolstoy's The Death of Ivan Ilyich. Again, so much Tolstoy I want to get to. I can't wait to read War and Peace. But I do not have a copy of it yet, so I thought a good introduction to Tolstoy will be this. And finally, Oscar Wilde's Only Dull People Are Brilliant at Breakfast. I read the title and laughed immediately, and obviously I've heard so much of Oscar Wilde. One of the people I grew up watching was Stephen Fry, who actually played Oscar Wilde in a biopic about him, and he's always talked so fondly of Oscar Wilde, and Stephen Fry, I feel like, is often identified with Oscar Wilde as a person. So if they at all have the same kind of humor, or if Oscar Wilde is anything like I expect him to be, I feel like I'm going to absolutely love this book. So yes, those are my 3 mini Black Penguin books. I think they're so cute, and I think I'm really going to enjoy reading them. So, yeah. Another reason I am so indebted to Best Little Bookshop in town is they introduced me to this series of books, these editions, which are the Penguin Pocket hardbacks, which are all about philosophical topics. So this one's the Communist Manifesto, which I do enjoy my politics and talking about politics, and I feel you really can't comment on communism, on the criticisms of capitalism, unless you have read this book. You know, there is so much like obvious idiots online who just say, you know, there's been things recently like masks are communism. I'll get back to you, but I really doubt Karl Marx anywhere in here mentioned anything about masks. So I just want to read the source material because I feel like so many people try to make criticisms of things they've never read or try to stand by things. It's on both sides. People also try to stand with things that they've never read because there's been this entire false narrative of what communism is and means. I don't identify personally my political views as communist, but I think there's some interesting things to be read here. This edition is absolutely beautiful. I have since also gotten Fear and Trembling by Kierkegaard, and there's a few others in this edition. I've also ordered Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. They've also got what I mentioned before, Beyond Good and Evil by Nietzsche. Pretty much every book in this collection is a book I want to read and own, and they also come in these beautiful tiny editions. So there is nothing bad about these books, and I got them from one of my favorite bookstores in the world. So I'm so happy about this purchase, and honestly, most of why I'm happy isn't actually about what the book is itself. It's just the store, the editions, where the trajectory of my reading in the future. So happy. So happy. The next book I want to talk about, I went out, this was really the first book, adventure that we took since the BLM movement really took off. And so I was looking for a few books. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find many of them. I've been able to get them since through other sources. And I believe they do have them now. They just didn't at the time. It just took a while to get those books into Australia, especially with everything that's going on. But the book I did find was Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. This was a book that was on pretty much every, Black author list, which came out due to the Black Lives Matter movement, because I really, really do want to try to diversify my bookshelf. I have since been better at doing that because, if I look over at this collection, I think pretty much everyone who wrote these books is a white man. And I have since been trying to take stronger measures to read others. I've bought more books by Black authors, and on the one that's an exception, but it's one I'm going to read soon, is White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. Now, she is not a Black author. However, it is a book I feel like will educate me on any internalized racism I carry and how to be a better ally to people of color. There's so much work that needs to be done. And this book stood out to me. It's fantasy. I've seen it's been big in BookTube. Even I, who's still working their way into, I'm now watching a ton of BookTube, way more than I ever did before. I'm seeing this everywhere. And I am actually seeing some mixed opinions about it. So I'm actually very curious, and I really do want to jump into it soon. So I might be starting reading this September, October. University is going to be going back soon, so who knows? I hope my reading can survive, but we'll see. The next book I got, I've been trying to find for ages. I don't know if I've just been horrible at looking or it's just slipped my mind, but there's one book that I've really, really wanted to have a look at, and that's Down and Out in Paris and London. I read 1984 in high school. I really did enjoy it. I'd love to reread it again now that I do have a bit more of a political head on my shoulders, especially if I read it after I read Communist Manifesto. But I see so many people who even love Orwell really don't like 1984, but love this book. And so I'm very curious because I knew Orwell purely for 1984 and Animal Farm, so more of his political criticisms than his other novels. And I do think I know very little about this book, but I do think it goes into some class issues, which I'm very interested to see what he has to say. And I'm very interested in this book because I've heard a lot about it. And then finally, Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. This is one of those books which definitely falls into the second category. I know very little about it. I know it's meant to be quite funny. I know it's meant to be quite enjoyable, but I really have no idea how I'm going to enjoy it or if I am going to enjoy it. V really wanted to get this book. It's kind of one where we're both kind of unsure, but together we got enough momentum together to decide to buy it and give it a go. This book is a modern classic, and it is a book that, you know, hence why it's in the vintage classics line. So I'll be happy if it's on my shelf, really, no matter how I feel about it. But it's strange, because even though every indicator shows that I'm going to really enjoy this book, I'm still tepid about it. So we'll see. So that's the haul. That's all the books. And I think I got through most of what I wanted to say about how I buy books. The only thing I'll round off with is I'm buying a lot of books now. I'm buying more books than I really ever have, but I really don't plan on keeping up this momentum. I grew up in a place where I had my high school library, but there wasn't really any, as far as I was aware, public library or anything like that. So if I wanted to read a book and it wasn't in the school library, I was kind of done for. Books were extremely expensive, and so whilst my parents always did everything they could to facilitate my reading, I couldn't get new books all the time. And I'm finally in a place in my life where I can afford to get the books I want to read. And I'm not... Basically, V and I are both extremely lame, so we very rarely go out or spend money on... I don't want this to sound deprecating, but frivolous things, like, you know, we don't go to clubs, we don't drink, even though we're in our quite early 20s. And so books is where I'm putting that money. It will get to a point, you know, once I have all of the modern classics from the last century, and once I have stopped buying all the books that I consider as non-risky, I really don't know where my buying is going to go. I want to get more into libraries, I want to get more into ebooks. I'm buying books at the moment. I am hauling at the moment, and I'm really enjoying doing it. I'm not gonna lie. I love these books. They're all so pretty, and they look so nice on a shelf, but it will not be a forever thing. I'm not planning on buying this many books forever. And I don't feel, you know, I definitely don't think I should need to feel that I should. Thank you so much for watching my first book haul. I hope you all did enjoy it and got something out of it. And please let me know in the comments if there's anything you want to see, any books you think I should buy, or any questions about book consumerism, though I can't imagine what they would be. Please like the video and subscribe if you did like it and want to see more of this. I'm going to try to keep it to a regular schedule of at least one video a week, ideally currently 2 videos a week, but once uni starts, that's probably going to drop off a little bit, but once a week is my promise for now, and we'll see how well I can keep it. Thanks again for watching. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.